I think a lot of us will remember having studied at school, particularly people of my vintage, a very specific phenomenon, which was when the caterpillar turns into a butterfly. And I think, as far as transitions go, that is an enduring memory that is indelibly implanted in my brain. That was the extent of my science knowledge anyway. Uh, but it's very emblematic of transition per se, because in most scenarios in life, I think we would agree that after the transition is complete, it invariably leads to a more beautiful, pleasant place and stage. But during the transition itself and during the transformation itself, is it can be quite unpleasant. And of course, I used that very symbolic imagery, but you look at anything. If I sit down to polish my shoes, I don't enjoy polishing them. I'm not one of those people who finds it therapeutic. But once my beautiful tan loafers are polished, they give me endless joy. When the snake sheds its skin, it's not a pleasant process, although I haven't spoken to a snake about it, but I'm sure it isn't. And but once the new skin reveals itself, you realize the beauty and the artistry of it. And the reason I'm going on and on about this is because as human beings, we also encounter not just one or two, but many, many transitions throughout our lives. And amongst us human beings, I think it's again fair to say that the fairer sex encounters countless transitions, and ostensibly those transitions, for a number of reasons, some in our control, most beyond, are a little more arduous than what us men perhaps have to go through, because there are also a lot of transitions in women's lives that have things to do with simple evolution, and they cause a certain amount of chaos, let's say. So these transitions are tricky to navigate. It is advisable that we can at least preempt them and, to the best of our abilities, prepare for what's coming, and arm ourselves with a certain amount of knowledge, perhaps some tools. And in order to discuss this, I'm being joined by arguably the most suitable person to do this, because before she transitioned into becoming a coach, she also inhabited very, very different roles and realms, each of those transitions having brought with them a certain amount of strife and distress. We're calling the session Minding the Gaps. You're with Talk Therapy by Driveway Devi. I'm Karthik on behalf of Driveway Devi, and I'm so delighted to welcome Swasti Kalra onto the show. She is, of course, now a leading coach. She has a beautiful YouTube channel. I personally find it therapeutic just listening to her, because there's a certain very, very gentle meter in which she speaks. It's very soothing. And so, Swasti, thank you for making time. I know things have been very busy, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Karthik, first of all, for that not at all required appreciation and introduction. I would like to thank you actually to, have a conversation with me, which is something which we don't talk about that often. And I'm actually very grateful to be sitting here talking the talk with you, because a lot of us need to hear about this. I wish when I was entering my teens, or when I was, probably exiting my teens, someone spoke to me about these things, but not sure whether I would have listened to them or not. But yeah, these are things that we as people, not just men or women, we as human beings need to talk about, need to be more aware of, so that we don't only share difficulties of life, we're just empathetic towards everything. So we need a
Absolutely.
lot of this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Couldn't agree with you more. So, Swasti, before we get into the transitions bit of it, which is really why we are meeting, I would love for you, in your own words, to tell the viewers a little bit about what you are doing nowadays. I would have actually loved to get into your backstory as well, but that will require several more episodes.
Yes, that's correct. Because I think last time we spoke, we scheduled a very short call, went on for a very long time because we got into the backstory of everything. But yes, I'll try and share bits of it. So, Karthik, I basically help people bridge themselves, their inner selves with their outer selves. I help them bridge that gap, especially for women who are in transition. Bridging this gap started for me from there because I realized I was going through a lot of transitions in life, and there was only a certain point where I reached and I needed someone to talk to me and tell me that yes, you're changing, there's something that's changed in your life, it's okay to feel this way, it's okay to come out of it, and then take your time to find yourself again. And it happens with not just women, with everybody. Today we'll stick to the women area of it. Since I use emotional intelligence, I use meditation, I use breath work, and I also use techniques from NLP. It helps people regulate their emotions. It gives them clarity of how they're feeling, how they want to move forward, what do they want to understand, and it just helps them focus on self-awareness. Because I feel if you're not aware of yourself, if you're not able to regulate your own emotions in yourself, your relationship management, your social intuition, all of that kind of starts to shred a bit. So I try and go to the root cause of everything, which is self-awareness, which is self-regulation, understanding yourself, acting the way you would want to act and not the way that you're expected to act. So that's something that I try and achieve in my sessions. And going to my backstory, I got here, I started performing at a very, very young age. I was about half of my life I have been performing. I was about 15 when I started performing, and I was not just performing, I was teaching, and teaching people that were much older than me. What always connected me to people was the basic sense of being human, because everyone came to a class thinking that they're going to learn something, and I was the one imparting that information. They didn't have to listen to me, I was half their age, but they listened to me because I spoke to the human in them. Then going on stage, having that feeling of one person in the audience needs to take something away from me today, needs to truly feel a feeling that I'm feeling on stage. How do I do that? How does the human brain function? Moving to acting, moving to understanding different characters. How do they act? Why are they acting? How are they evolving? Why are they saying a certain thing at a certain point? So I was always very, very curious about the human mind. I was very intrigued about why certain people take something as red and the others would call it maybe pink. There are people, and they, both the sides call each other colorblind. So I that always intrigued me, that why, where is it coming from, where would this person now take this one thing. Then I moved into entertainment as a leader, and there it just my kina of becoming, understanding people just got a bit stronger, because you cannot get work done if you don't connect to your team. And I didn't have a small team, I had a large team with me. So connecting with 100 people and understanding how each of them think, how each of them would perceive a difficult or an easy situation is very tricky. So finding that little bit of space between,
No,
working with each
that makes so
individual the
much
way they
sense,
would
because
want
I'm
to
going to
see it.
quickly come in here, particularly when you are talking, and let me allow me to put this in context for our viewers. Swasti was essentially on ship. So, when you're at sea and you have a critical mass of people confined and living in a certain very, very different lifestyle from what we take for granted to be our everyday status quo, which is on land, it's very different in any case. And there's a lot of adjustment that the brain needs to do in any case.
Yes, that's right. Because when I was on the ship, a lot of my people that were working on land, that weren't aware of living on a ship, had passed on this thing to me that, great, you're earning easy money, do this for the next few years, you're going to save a lot. Nothing about being on a ship is easy. Living on land, I found it difficult because my life suddenly became extremely easy after the ship, because there's emotional trauma, there is confinement emotionally and physically, and there are new people coming every few days on the ship that you have to serve and you have to cater to, and you have to keep smiling. The show has to keep going on no matter what happens in
Yeah.
your personal life. The show has to go on. There is no restaurant that you go to in the night, have a few drinks with your friends, come back home and sleep. No, you're at home, you're in the restaurant, you're on stage, you're working, all at the same place. So yes, in that whole area, I understood how much emotions carry, how much weight they carry for a human being, and how much we need to understand, not just for ourselves but for the other person as well. So yes, that's how, after getting married, this was one of my long-term plans, to get into wellness. So I decided to go ahead with my courses. I learned about it, got some certifications, and here I am trying to help people, trying to shape lives emotionally, and trying to give my 2 cents everywhere I can. People who want to take it, do take it. So yes, it
That's
helps people slow
absolutely
down and
wonderful,
reconnect.
because the thing is that one can get, and I truly believe this, after having studied a fair bit myself, I've come to this conclusion that nothing, absolutely nothing, no Ivy League, no PhD masters can compete with lived experience. So when you come at it from a certain amount of personal insight, that's amazing. Um, Okay, so speaking of transitions, and in the interest of time, talk a little bit about some of the more critical, specific transitions that women tend to encounter.
Well, for women, transitions start at a very, very young age. They transition from being a toddler to a grown child, to a school going kid, to a girl who's started with her womanhood, as we call it, then getting into college. It starts at a very, very young age, because even for the mother, they have to start preparing that daughter that, okay, your life is going to change. And the biggest transition, in my opinion, that even I have felt, has been becoming from becoming a wife to a mother to that caregiver. And there, in that whole process of these 3 phases of life, finding your own space to rediscover who you are as a person. And I only did realize this for myself when I got married, and which was not long ago. I had seen all my cousins getting married, friends getting married, but when it happened to me, I understood how much it changes you as a person, and how much you don't realize that it is changing you. It's not just physically your life changes, it's emotionally. Your patterns of thinking, they tend to change, and your expectations with yourself plus the expectations of others from you, finding that gap, that is a very, very big transition. It affects this gap so much, because you don't know that whether you're acting because it's expected of you to do act that way, or you're acting because you're actually feeling that way. You kind of lose that sight for a bit. So I feel this is one of the biggest transitions, where women need to be aware. They need to be not just aware, but prepared for it. Because right now we are prepared for it by the people who've already been married. And the preparation is very outwardly, that okay, in that house this is what is expected of you, or in that house this is how they function, so you have to start learning to do that. I have a problem, that I can't wake up 8 hours, before 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Before getting married, I was constantly told that you have to start waking up early, because in that house people wake up early, or certain things like that.
But
Where
you're right, because all of this is very, very logistics and administrative.
yes, but no one really says and talks about, okay, you're going to lose sight of yourself a little bit. So make sure that you hold on to that one thing which is just yours and don't let it go. Don't let that hobby or passion or work go. Keep that one thing for yourself, because you're going to get into a pattern of working, of serving other people's expectations, not because they're putting it out on you, not because they're forcing you to, but as women, we are natural caregivers. So the moment we enter a family, we it is, I don't know what it is some sort of mystical thing that happens, that suddenly your wings grow bigger and you engulf the whole family. And in that process, we are not prepared and we are not tuned to how to keep our anchors strong, how to keep ourselves grounded to who we are as people and not lose sight of that. I lost sight of it, but I was lucky enough to be brought back to it by my own awareness, by my family's awareness. But not everyone has that, support and push. So I feel it's a very, very big transition where we stop self-inquiring.
That's a wonderful, wonderful example of a very, very critical transition, because earlier on you had mentioned a few phrases that I personally find very critical. One is self-awareness, and one is emotional regulation. And I think you would agree that many times during these transitions and in adopting new roles, the individual loses objectivity. It's very difficult to hang on to that objectivity. And that's where I suppose everything begins to get lost and mired. And, one's identity first starts bleeding into one's partners, one's, married families, and then it just completely gets mixed up and mixed in and lost ultimately. Just to add a bit of humor to this very serious situation, you also mentioned that women don't really know how to prepare to be caregivers to their children when they become mothers. I will tell you that a lot of us Indian men give our partners enough practice of that, because the moment we get married, we transfer the burden of being babied from our mothers onto our wives. So, yeah, soft launch and
That
all.
is absolutely true. Living the life. But I think
Um,
it's a good, that shift of a husband becoming like a woman taking care of her husband like a child is a very good shift, because otherwise your husband might not be as vulnerable with you as he would have been with the main woman of his life. I feel it is important that he sees you in that light, and all women deserve to be seen in that light by their partners, where they can just open up and they can just come home to their wives. I feel that is a privilege, that for women who can actually baby their husbands, that their husbands hold them in that regard.
that's very interesting, and I would tend to agree with you, as long as both parties involved uh, are able to play that role when the other requires it.
Absolutely, absolutely. It has to be a two-way street. It has to be a two-way street. Yeah.
Now, in what ways, if you can qualify a little bit, perhaps, even with some observations or examples, of course, without mentioning names, etc., of specific ways in which these changes and these transitions manifest both physically and psychologically. You talk about dysregulation, what can happen, what tends to happen, and then where does somebody like you come into that construct?
That's a very interesting question, Karthik, because transition, why it's important is because we don't see it and we don't talk about it. We don't realize it's happening. We see the outer world of transitions. We see that, okay, her address has changed, her name is changing, uh, she's now walking with someone who is her husband, or she's now roaming around with a family which she has just entered. So all of these visible changes are there, but what's happening on the inside is, from becoming that, from being that daughter, from being a daughter of a family where, yes, you still take on responsibilities as a daughter. I would still wake up and on a lot of days cook for my family, but it was not given out to me as you're the caretaker of the house. Suddenly, when that responsibility is not given to you, it's just by default expected of you. There's nothing wrong in it. But what happens in that is, when I was taking care of my parents where I was born and raised, it was not expected of me. But I still did it. It wasn't like I was appreciated out of the world for it. But I also had in mind that this is my life where I'm doing so and so things for myself. This is something I'm doing for the family. That, I don't want my mother to be tired today, or she's unwell, or etc., etc. Versus when I come here, and in my old house, my parents are aware of me as a person. They've raised me. They've seen me, from my first letter to, from my first word, from my first step walking to me walking out of that house as a bride. They've seen my life. They've understood me and the core of me as a person. Wherein in the new house that a girl has stepped into, they don't know you. They know of you. Your partner might know you if you've been together for long enough, but that's not a lot of women these days.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in the culture of arranged marriages, right?
Sure.
So in that area, I will still now keep the partner in a space where they don't know you. They know of you. They know what you do. They know what you like. They know the kind of clothes you like to wear, how you like to party, or what kind of food you like to eat. But they don't know what you do when you get extremely angry. You don't know where you want to vent off your steam. They don't know, that what is your comfort space. Do you want to be left alone, or do you want to be, talked to? Do you want someone to come and ask you what's up with you? Or do you want nobody to come and show you their face? So, and as that one new person in a family, you don't know them as well. So you don't know, how do you communicate that today I don't feel like getting out of bed because I'm feeling bad about so and so things, or I'm homesick, or I'm feeling a little lost.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the times women do kind of deflect from this feeling. I deflected from it for a very, very long time after getting married. I deflected from that, uh, you know, it's that feeling of letting my old self go. I deflected from it. I sort of had, withdrawal symptoms from that. And I just kept shutting it off by making sure everyone in this house is all praises about me. Everyone here sees that, okay, she's doing such a good job. She's adjusting so well. She takes care of us. She's taking care of him. And she's such a happy person in the house. Because as human beings, we don't want the other person who's new in our lives to see our weaker parts. And that's where we start to dysregulate ourselves. And it is nobody's fault. It's just us. We don't know how to, in a new environment, get up and say, today I can't, I just need to be alone. Or today I feel that we all should go out for dinner. Or today, let's not cook at home, let's order in. Let us all go on a family vacation. Because you also take your time to understand different human minds in the house. So I feel the dysregulation starts at that very minute level where you've come into the house and you're feeling slightly guilty because now you're unable to connect with your own parents that much. You're spending more time here and you're with full heart trying to connect with this family. And at night, there is this one thought that, am I doing everything right? Am I missing something? What can I do tomorrow to make things better? And we don't ask ourselves, what do I need? What do I need? I didn't ask myself for a very long time. And I find myself to be very grateful that I have a family that asked me this, but not a lot of people get that family. So I feel that is one place where this regulation starts. And then it moves forward, because if you're not made aware of this in the beginning, this will keep moving forward and will take you to a place where you're becoming a mother, you're adding one more responsibility of another life altogether. You're shaping a human being that you forget about yourself completely. Then there is no going back to finding it again and self-realization and self-awareness suddenly kicking in unless you hit rock bottom. And nobody wants to hit rock bottom. Rock bottom takes a very long time for women because we're very strong.
Of
So
course, I
we
mean, again,
endure
at the
a
cost
lot.
of quickly jumping in, this is something that I would have in any case shared because it's such a sad but almost inevitable natural corollary to assuming that role of a mother to a young child. Because again, particularly in our communities and our type of familial constructs, the woman and the mother gets so consumed that by the time the nest is empty, there is a full blown identity crisis because that person simply doesn't exist anymore.
Absolutely. And this is why women or human beings require coaches who help them self-regulate. So this is where I feel a coach steps in, where they don't only make you aware of who you are and what you're lacking and what you're not seeing, they help you move out of it. Because sometimes we do realize that, yes, for example, I used to dance a lot before getting married and now I don't.
Sure.
There is a physical aspect attached to it, but I don't because I have changed as a person. It's not that I don't miss dancing. Now, a coach is going to help me understand that I miss it. Why do I want to do it? Should I be doing it? And the answer is going to come out from me. I'm going to say the answers to the questions that the coach puts in front of me.
Yeah.
The my inner expectations of who I am today, what I want to be today, versus matching the expectations of what the family sees of me. That gap, the coach helps you bridge that gap. They help you understand that you're feeling this way. That does not mean that you can't act it. You have to act according to how you're feeling, not according to what you're expected to act. So that is where aware is very important. Awareness shapes up you in understanding, I'm feeling this way, this is how I want to act, these are the hurdles in the way. If I maneuver my acting a little bit, I will cross those hurdles as well, but at least I feel. Then, of course, in the coaching sessions, we go through a lot of journaling where the coach has the, woman or the client, they have to write down how they felt throughout the week or every day. So yes, they it just helps clients understand that what they feel is important, as important as what they're expected to act as. And it gives these sessions just give people emotional vocabulary. Otherwise we end up making a big deal out of a lot of things. A woman who's just feeling like she's losing herself might start fighting with her husband on different things. I've done that, where I was having an identity crisis and I used to scream at my husband saying that you're not supporting me, you're not, giving me time, you're not
Hmm.
spending time with me, blah 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 blah. I will find faults in everything because I'm not tuned as a person to look inside and be like, oh, wait, if I fix this about myself, these small little things are actually not a problem for me. So I feel this one awareness, it really kicks in when you start coaching. That's very important. You start having reflective dialogue with yourself. With breath work and grounding, which is guided, you learn how to navigate in a difficult situation. Something might just trigger you a lot. But when you're doing breath work, when you're understanding how you're regulating your emotions, you will come out of it, you will navigate through it very nicely. And it's very important for newly married women to learn that moving into being mothers, because as a child you don't want your child to see erratic behavior, you don't
Of
want your child
course.
to get confused
Absolutely.
that yesterday I did this, mama didn't say anything, but today I did the same thing, she didn't like it and she shouted at me. The child will not understand that between yesterday and today something happened which changed your mood. So
Absolutely.
that one regulation really helps. And I try and bridge that gap for people, that if it's happened, something's happened between two similar situations, your reaction should remain the same for both the situations. That one thing is to be tackled with separately. So
Uh,
yes, it just helps them build self-trust. And
Thank you
you know,
for articulating that very, contextualizing it rather very clearly. Final two thoughts, because I know I've overstayed my welcome. One is a comment, really, and one is my final question. While you were talking
mhm.
about the family construct, and in a sense, an overwhelming majority of women, when they come into a new family, they almost unconsciously adopt it as their own, unquestionably, all of that. We are also sociologically at a time in history where more and more couples are leading nuclear existences. Away from homes, away from either family, just the couple. I am just wondering, and I'm almost taking the liberty of thinking aloud, that given that the time and opportunity and frequency of particularly the let's say the woman in this scenario, in having such sporadic and limited interaction with her married family, extended family, आजकल तो इन-लॉज के साथ आप रहते हैं तो it's called joint family. In those scenarios, is it then fair to say that those those dynamics and those relationships will probably remain largely superficial? And by superficial, I don't mean intentionally so, but there's no other opportunity.
um honestly, Karthik, in my personal experience, so I was raised in an actual joint family of 12 people. I am married in a joint family, which is going to grow in the future. And while I love this, and this is what I want, I am not someone who agrees with the nuclear setup for one basic reason, that I grew up with my grandparents. I learned from their lived wisdom. I want my children to have that too. I want my children to be able to look at 10 other people standing right behind them and being like, we're there with you, not just mom and dad, and oh, now I don't have anyone. I want my child to have that inclusivity, have that capability of adjusting to different kind of people. Having said that, yes, a lot of people are moving into nuclear setups, and largely most of the people in my age group, in my generation, are moving out and starting their own nuclear setups. There are various reasons for it.
Sure.
And for some, that's the only way to go. For some people, that's the only way they can, take their lives forward. Do relationships remain superficial in that area? Yes and no. It entirely depends on how the man has a very big role to play in this. I genuinely think that so my someone in my family has started a nuclear setup, and but the relationship is not superficial at all. There are conversations daily. The days start and end with talking to the family. There is a good morning call, there is a good night call, there is that culture, and there is that tie between the families. Why? Because for the girl, it's easy to let it go. But because the man is so connected to the family, and because both husband and wife agree that yes, culture, your heritage, your lineage is important for the generation that you're going to bring in, we stick to that. Both of us stick close to that, so that when we bring a life into the world, that life automatically comes and gets engulfed in that, and not just in these four walls that we're living in. Versus there is a situation where, relationships are not that tight still. They're nuclear. And because of X and X or Y reasons, people have forgotten that this will affect your child forward. The child wants to have a family in the future. They will not understand certain things, and they will not understand how to maintain, how to keep tied, keep yourself tied to your culture in a good way. It'll just be extended relatives, extended relationships. We see a lot of that coming from the willpower of the family the woman has gone to. If the family is strong and close knitted, the relationships will not be superficial. However, if we have said ki now he has separated, he's living separately, and they're leading their own lives. Yes, they will physically and from the outside lead their own lives, but that does not mean they're not taking your values forward. They will take your values forward if you let them, and your family will let you take the values forward if you keep attached to them. We don't realize because there's a lot of unsaid pressure that, oh, you don't call us or we don't call you, oh, you don't have time for us. There's a lot of conversations that happen here where people sort of give up that, okay, fine, we'll just live our lives, we don't want the
Yeah,
stress.
there's too much Jamila.
There's too much jhamela. That jhamela is something that we need to sort of eradicate
But
so
you know
that this
what,
relationship
you've
don't become
made me
superficial.
actually realize and remember that you hit the nail on the head, because as long as it is a priority, even if you're living continents apart, all stakeholders will find ways and make the effort to make it happen. And by that same token, if you're not genuinely interested or invested, you can be cohabiting next to each other and you'll remain strangers.
Absolutely. I know families who are where, the boy and the girl have families from different countries. They are living in a different country, but they are still so connected to both the families. And their child is so connected to both the families. So it is possible. It is just about, do you want it to happen? Are you emotionally capable for it to let it happen? Because we don't realize that we let it go because it's too much for us emotionally. We don't have time for it, which kind of then shows in our next generation where they don't
Absolutely.
understand certain
Absolutely. And
relationships.
then, of course, we wonder why they're so disconnected.
Yes.
Finally, before we wrap up, I must ask you this because, again, it's a reality of our times. Things are changing, but I think there's still some time to go. Not everybody, for various reasons, has access to a resource such as yourself. In those scenarios, of which there are many, unfortunately, what are some, I don't dislike the term tips, what are some suggestions that you can offer for particularly, again, women to safeguard themselves from this complete losing and loss of identity?
Yes. So I will speak from my personal experience and a little bit of gained knowledge after that. From my personal experience, what's really worked is knowing and accepting. Step one is acceptance. If you don't accept it for yourself, and you don't need to go and make some sort of an announcement in
Of course.
in the face of acceptance. It's literally in the morning when you get up and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, yes, I know I've not been spending time with you. Today I will sit down for you for 5 minutes,
Hmm.
sit down
Hmm.
with you for 5 minutes.
Hmm.
Doing that one thing honestly, honestly telling yourself, yes, you did lie to yourself about this. Okay, we will stop lying to ourselves from now on. Treating yourself as your best friend, because we are there for our partners, we're there for our best friends. We forget to be there for ourselves. So that is step one, where we need to just look in the mirror and tell ourselves that yes, you need help. We need help. We need someone to talk to. We need to voice this one feeling that we have in ourselves. Then along with that, in the phase of awareness and being true to yourself, we also journal. You start writing things down. Sometimes you don't find words, so just take a pen and paper without thinking. At least 2 hours before bed, write it down. Today this happened, I felt this way, I did this, I did this, I did this. I wish there will be at the end of the page where you will write something which will be, I could have done this, शायद मैं ये कर लेती तो, आज ये करने का मन था, Next day, you will remember and you will do it and you'll feel nice about it. If not
Mm,
next day, then a couple of days later, you
mm,
will realize that, Acha, these things that I've been wanting to do, I'm not doing. Let me spend today's day for myself. Let me go out and do these things, or let me sit at home and do these things for myself. That one little victory gives you a lot of self-confidence. It gives you a lot of self-respect. Then definitely everyone should practice breath work. It is very easy. It's just box breathing in for four counts, breathing out for 4 counts. In between, you take pauses for four each, and it just grounds you. It sort of shuts off your amygdala from running in circles about everything that's happening or not happening, and brings your focus to the moment in that second. So the kind of breath work that people do in meditations or different kinds of things, we can do it at home for ourselves. I was not always trained in meditation, but I realized breath always helped me, because this is one thing which is mine. Till I am, it is. Until it is, I am. So
mm.
you connect to your breath. So first thing is, you talk to yourself, you be honest, you write things down. One day you will write something that you really want to do, and then you follow it. Then there is breath work that people should genuinely do. Then, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling a little moved, you're not understanding what's happening today, sit down for 2 minutes, ask yourself, Kya hua? No one's coming to ask you all the time. Sit down and ask, Kya hua? You're feeling angry? Okay, it's fine. Write it down, let it go. Then come back to it. It will come and sit with you when it's ready to come and sit with you, and then you be honest with yourself. And the most important after this inner work is finding a community, seeking
Mm.
a thinking partner for yourself, because a coach is nothing but your thinking partner. A coach is not your life guide. A coach is not your bible to follow, that okay, this is what my coach has told me,
Sure.
this is what I'm going to. Because even me as a coach, and a lot of reputed coaches, everybody, they don't tell you what to do. Okay, this is how you're feeling, this is what you do. No, they listen to you, they ask you something, you tell them what you want to do, you guide them as to, this is how I want to take my life forward. The coach's job is only to make you think
Of
what you
course.
want. So finding that support, it could be your partner, it could
Mm.
be your friend, it could be a woman's community. Where I live, there is a community of women where, mothers come and they speak to each other. And that's not for gossip.
Of
It's
course.
in general to connect as human beings, because a woman understands a woman, no matter where you are in the world. So seeking that one peer, that one partner, that one person, because you need a little bit of uh, reflection coming from another person, because it also opens your box a little. Otherwise, you box yourself a lot. So you open that box. Find someone you trust who will listen to you without judgment. You have to have that person. And it is better if it's not either of your mothers, your mother or your mother-in-law. It'll be better if it's not them, because we're very used to, as daughters, to just go under the wing and hide. So we don't need to go under their wing and hide. It needs to be
Right.
someone who can be
No, I mean,
accountable
just
for
from
you.
the standpoint of getting a more perhaps objective opinion, perspective, etc. I think it's
Yes,
better to
yes.
the less emotionally involved and tied that person is, which is why mental health resources work so well. Well, that was absolutely brilliant. I know we've barely scratched the surface, but what I think we've done importantly with all the wonderful insights that you've shared is set up a very, very important context and shared enough for people to realize that this is extremely important, very critical, and one should be mindful of it, and set steps ought to be taken and they can be taken. So thank you very much. Perhaps if you have time at some point in the future, we can do a part 2 and 3. But it's been wonderful. You are extremely insightful and articulate. I continue to believe that most of this comes from lived experience rather than the various certifications that you've amassed. All the very best for your relatively young new career and new marriage and new life. In any case, we are talking about an individual's entire life span because transitions keep happening right up until the end. So it's not possible to encapsulate that in one sort of podcast episode. But thank you very much and hope to be in touch.
Thank you so much, Karthik, for having me. And all I can say is evolving and regulation and everything requires permission. I hope through this talk, women allow themselves to evolve and understand and breathe through their transitions. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I'm extremely grateful for it. And I wish you as well a lot of luck and a lot of happiness and a lot of strength for all your transitions that you're going to go through.
Thank you.